Gamebreaker TV.
You are watching the first and longest running new media broadcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Welcome to Game Breakers The Republic. You will never need to listen to any other Old Republic podcast ever again. Oh, who were they kidding? They're just a bunch of nerds geeking out about the Old Republic on the internet. But here's your host, having a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. It's Larry Everett.
Hey everybody, this is Larry Everett, and you are watching the 200th episode of The Republic here on Game Breaker. It is February 26th, and it is 6:30 PST, and today we are talking about some of our favorite reasons to play TOR, why we're here. This is a special episode where we want to inject some positivity into the game. And with me today from the Carillion Run Radio and from her blog, Pretty Little Sith, it's Heather. How's it going, Heather?
Hi, I'm good. Very happy to be here today, as always.
Excellent day to be here to 200th episode. And I'm also brought with me Chuck from from Bad Feeling Podcast, also on Twitter at Bearded Ape. What is up, Chuck? What is up, Chuck?
I will try to be positive about this because it is 200 episodes. That's awesome.
It is. It's great. And also I brought with me from SWTOR Economics, Andrew. What's going on? You're quiet. Can't hear you. There you go.
Important detail. Thanks for having me.
We are here today. We're talking. We're like I said, we're gonna just inject some positivity into this. What's happening with TOR? There's a few pieces of news that we'll bring up as we're talking. But you know what? The biggest thing that because I wrote my first article on Massively Overpowered was about 7 reasons why we should play TOR now. And on top of that, TOR is now giving former subscribers, so I guess they would be preferred players, they're giving them 7 days of subscription access, so they can see everything they play the same way that everybody that has a subscription for 7 days. So if you are not playing TOR right now and maybe you want to get back into TOR, then now might be a really good time to do it, because you get to play. You can do all the operations. You can do PvP, get the rewards and all. Well, I guess PvP was already there, but you can get the rewards and all the stuff that you would normally get as a subscriber for 7 days. And that ends. I was just looking at it. It ends on March 29th, right? Yeah. All right. So you log in, and then, so you got to do it before March 29th, and you get 7 days. So, in light of that, in light of our 200th episode, I asked these guys, to give me, 3 or 4 reasons why they still play TOR, why they like it, why it's still their game that they play. And I'm going to throw it to Heather first, and give us. You don't have to name all of them. Just what is one reason right now? What is your the top reason that you play TOR right now?
Top reason is my guild. They, it's just having people that you like, that are your friends, that you play with online. It doesn't matter what's going on in the SWTOR community or what's going on with the game. I mean, you're in there and with all your friends, and you're just like, well, you want to run something? And we go do something, and it's fun. It doesn't matter what is happening in the outside world, in the Twitter world, or wherever. People that are not in your guild. It doesn't matter about what they're doing. It just matters how much fun I'm having with my guild, which is Despair on the Harbinger.
Actually,
I've been with them for a long time. Well, almost 2 years now.
Wow, very cool. That actually brings up a question, because one of the things that they announced this week was their I guess, partnership with ESL, which is Electronic Sports League, and doing speed runs of operations, of story mode operations. And what I was curious about, because I know Despair does some operations and stuff. Are you guys going to jump into that, or what are you guys thinking?
I'm trying to convince my GM because I heard about it the other day, and he was just like, "Oh well, what if it bugs out on us, or what if you don't get Underlurker down? We can one shot pretty much everything consistently, but Underlurker is still kind of like, maybe we'll one shot it." So, and I know there's so many really good guilds out there. It's like, well, I know we're good, but we're not like crazy good. So I think it would be fun to try, but I don't want to, get everyone's hearts broken if we're not even close. Or if something happens in our run and it gets ruined.
I don't know. I don't think my guild is there. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to try. I think it'd be fun to try. That's kind of my thing, because we do raids regularly and we can get through. We still have issues with Underlurker. I don't know anybody who doesn't have issues with Underlurker, really. I'd like to see somebody get through Underlurker the first time without any mistakes at all. I have not seen that yet. Which is I guess the key to defeating Underlurker is get through there without any mistakes. But I don't know. I'm interested. What do you actually? Let me ask you, Chuck. What do you think of that in general? That they've now partnered with ESL and they're doing something that's a little more competitive. What do you think this says for the game?
Well, it's interesting because we talked about it this week on Bad Feeling, and it's the trouble or the thing that I have a kind of issue with is that, okay, well, there's some pretty cool rewards. There's some including cash and prizes and all these other things, but what about those people that have been doing competitive things in the game all along, like the ranked PvPers and stuff like that have gone, hey, you got a new outfit, and it seems like yet another time when PvPers get kind of blah. But see, I'm trying not to be negative, so
yeah, the prizes are very exciting. I
want to be positive because we were talking about being positive. So I mean, the good thing about it is that it's another aspect in a way to kind of incentivize people to kind of to jump in and do some of this content that they may or may not have done already. So if you haven't done a lot of this content, our guild has a bad feeling on Jung Ma. It is fairly, which by the way, just so you know, it looks awesome because nameplate has a bad feeling. Awesome. But we're still working through a lot of this PvE content that we haven't done yet. So it's a little bit newer, so we won't be able to compete for something like that. But it's kind of a neat thing to incentivize people to do in game.
Now I'll probably get a little bit philosophical here regarding the types of players and whatnot. But one of the things that I've noticed about MMO players, and this actually is backed up through studies and stuff like that, like through the Bartle studies and Rick Yee's studies and things along that line of MMO players in general. And one of the things that marks like a PvPer, usually something that gravitates towards PvP, isn't necessarily the PvP itself, isn't necessarily the actual type of gameplay. It's the idea that they are competing against another person or another group of people, and then they can rise or see where they rank with other people or in comparison to other people. And so it isn't necessarily PvP in the strictest sense, but I think that this kind of thing, and I know some PvPers are going to totally disagree with me, but I believe that this kind of thing will appeal to some or a good chunk of PvPers as well. That, hey, guess what? Yeah. You know what? We can be better than these guys over here, and it's that whole competition.
It taps into the competitive side
right.
of whatever's going on, or the individual. But what's different about it is that it's not as individual. Obviously, if you're going to play ranked PvP and succeed, you're probably going to have a 4-man group, and you're going to be doing it on the reg. So it's like that you've already grouped up. But being able to do 8-man groups and do story content, it and created something competitive out of it too is a whole new side of it. And a lot of people just PvP guilds or PvP people kind of ignored that, being that I did that for a long time. I just didn't even bother with PvE content because it wasn't what I would like to do. But at the same time, I'm also not that competitive, so maybe that's why I'm not successful at it. So,
do you think that? No, let me ask this thing really quickly. We're kind of off topic, but whatever. Do you think that there is enough time for PvP guilds or competitive guilds? Let's call them competitive guilds to step into the ring and actually get something done and be competitive in, even though it's a PvE environment. Is there enough time for them to do that, do you think, Chuck?
Totally. I think so anyway, because I mean, if you're a PvP guild and you're used to playing 4-man, or you're used to that, like, you could probably step in, and that cooperative nature that you already have for PvP is something that you can apply to PvE, which is something that I've learned doing more PvE content, is that, oh, well, this is actually really fun because I'm still playing with other players, and now it's actually people I know instead of queuing solo. It's like it's a lot more interesting to be able to do it as well. And it's just a new facet to the game that I really hadn't done in the last 4 to 6 months, until we started a guild, and I was like, oh, all right, this is kind of cool. So I think that's something that PvP players could definitely step up to, because that's they go through those challenges every single time. The difficulty would be just learning the boss fights, the mechanics, like that stuff like that. So being competitive on the boards, that may not be in the cards, but otherwise it could be a lot of fun.
What were your thoughts, Heather? You were about.
I don't think they have time. There's other guilds out there that have the gear. They've been practicing this for a few months now, and they know how to do it. So any guides that these other guilds can look up, or any practicing, they're still not gonna be able to put in as many hours as these other guilds that have practiced it over and over and over and over again.
But
I don't think they will be able to beat them.
You don't think that they can put in? I mean, because we're talking about PvE here for the most part, even though it's competitive PvE. Is there a cap on it, on the speed? Is basically, is there a cap on a learning curve? Or, I mean, because it's got to crest really quickly, I would think. Once you get the mechanics down, you're golden. Now you're doing little nuances to try to make things a little bit different.
I do have something in maybe a PvP guild's favor.
Yeah.
I do think that a lot of PvPers, especially if they're very competitive, if they're really highly rated PvPers and ranked, I do think that they know their classes very, very well. That's why they're good in PvP, because you do have to use all of your different utilities. So I think I don't want to say anything that people are going to start screaming at me about, but I think they could learn it, but I still don't think they're going to be as good as other guilds that have been practicing. But I think they're very good players.
We haven't heard from you. We haven't heard from you yet, Andrew. What were your thoughts?
Well, the chat room just brought up one of the things that I was going to mention, which was that I think that the one thing that will help some of the other not top maybe 10 guilds in terms of clearing the content when it originally came out is that there's so much that's going to be dependent on the random number generator and when people have crits on what abilities and things like that, because like you mentioned, Larry, there's a bit of a narrow range. There's a maximum speed that you can clear PvE content at, that it's just not possible to outpace certain mechanics that force the fight to have a certain pace to it. And so I think that'll keep a lot of guilds fairly close together, and the difference between the really, really good ones who've run the content dozens of times now and a guild who jumps in this week, spends some time getting to know it, and just gets really lucky on one run, I think the gap's probably small enough that you could see that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Although, I mean, Heather does bring up some good points. I mean, it does. these guys that have been doing it for quite a while now have been doing it for quite a while, and the mechanics are just second nature to them. There's pros and cons on both sides, definitely, because in general, PvPers know their abilities a lot cleaner than PvEers in general, because they know they know the timing and the pacing and things, because they have to be quick and reactive to what's happening in a situation, whereas PvEers are more, it becomes a mechanical thing in the sense that you hit this at this time and this at that time, and there's a little bit of I could definitely see the give and take on either end, but I do like to think that personally that PvP guilds do have enough time to still jump in there and try to be competitive.
I mean, I get that. I would love to think the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, but I kind of the gear thing is like, oh yeah, well that's going to be a tough thing to battle. But I mean, I think what'll be interesting to see is that if you see PvPers, like if it draws people in, you know, it may not be something. Because the other thing that PvPers, especially top end ones, will do is they kind of they're going to be measured about it and go, we can't win. Why are we going to waste our time? So you just skip it. You know, why bother doing it? Unless the incentives are going to be good enough to try to make that happen. You know, and those are some pretty good incentives to try to get that going. But I mean, it'd be cool if, like, you know, they sent somebody on a trip for being the best ranked PvP player, you know, and not just this PvE
that would
content.
be very cool, actually.
You know what I mean? It's and
have
that's
like the 4 top people go.
Totally, and I think that's like one of the most this is another one of those things where it's like, oh man, I wish there was another way to incentivize PvP play as well, instead of just PvE. So I don't know or if that's something that's going to turn around someday, or, you know, like maybe later in the year we'll get the reverse of this in PvP, we'll get that kind of sweetener or something, you know, because it just feels like another short end of the stick for PvP players, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of really, really good ones too, and and I doubt that it's going to draw a lot of those players in just because they don't want to waste their time on it, and in a lot of it sounds like that's what it's going to be.
That actually leads to another question that I had talked about with some of my guildies, and actually I think I talked to Redna about this as well. I said, I really think that this is a good thing, that being involved with ESL and doing this competitive rating is a good thing. I don't want to discount that at all, but I do agree with Chuck in saying that it does kind of leave out a good chunk of players that could easily participate in this, or should participate in this. However, that being said, does this mean that they're going if this is successful, and I assume that it will be, because come on, it's awesome. Does that mean that it's going to lead into some PvP stuff maybe in the future, whenever it is a little bit more balanced, in the sense that you won't have ranked PvP with all hatred assassins in the group?
Hey man, there's 4% snipers in there. I'm going to get back in there someday. Someday I might be able to do something in PvP again, but not anytime soon. Well, I don't know. And I got to be positive. Be positive. It's just what stinks to me is that, like, that rank structure is already there, and the competitive structure is already there in PvP. It already exists.
Well, do you think that?
How do you add it to the?
Okay, so do you? A legitimate question here, though. Do you think that they didn't put ranked in here because they realized that it's not balanced, that it's not balanced enough?
And who knows? That may be true. That may be a consideration as well. But you know, has it ever been balanced all the way? So I mean,
I think it. Now, as far as rank, okay, I know I got into a thing with Snave on Twitter about this, and I do believe that overall, when you look at all of PvP that we are looking at a surprising balance, that a balance that isn't that is a little bit better than I thought it would be. However,
Right now?
What happened to our 3 to 4 items that we love about SWTOR?
oh, well,
You're
Power
going
of the
off the
beard
rails.
inspired.
Off the rails.
but I know, but that's all right. But at any rate, I think that, but I do believe that ranked, which is a small portion of PvP, is definitely not balanced, and that needs some work. And I think that that's one of the reasons why they didn't throw that into the ESL ring, is that they're like, yeah, we're really going to show how poorly balanced our classes are by throwing ranked in there. Anyway, let's move on to Chuck. And Chuck, what is one of the things that I would say? Let's say, what is the top thing that keeps you in Tor? Why do you like it?
Oh, because lightsabers, man. I mean, I know that's probably stealing everybody's line right there, but totally because lightsabers. I mean, it's the whole reason I started playing the game in the first place. Was it because, I mean, I'm a gamer. I love to play it. Like Skyrim was my thing before that, and I knew that Elder Scrolls was coming, right? You know, it's like such a great game, and it was so awesome. And then, you know, when they made SWTOR free to play, it was like, well, let's give it a shot and see. Oh, dude! And then once you're in, you know, I've got the free crack rock, and now I'm back buying it every damn day. You know? So and it's all about the lightsabers, you know, more than anything else. It's kind of ingrained since I was a damn kid, you know, waving a cardboard tube around, trying to make the sound. It's so much a part of like who I am and what I love that I can't get away from it. And I'm able to bring that into the gaming world too. Awesome score.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was playing KOTOR, whether it was playing Unleashed, or whether it was playing Battlegrounds, you know, I've played all the Star Wars games, but this has been by far the best and my favorite, and it's so many things that, you know, I mean, hell, it made me do more work and do a podcast about it. It's just dumb. It's like, why? That's how much it got me, and it really is because of lightsabers. Because I could be playing Elder Scrolls right now too and have a bow and arrow, but it still ain't no lightsaber.
How many are here because of lightsabers? It was one of their primary reasons. Yeah, all right, that's what I thought. All four of us. That's what I thought. I mean, obviously, I am a little bit of a fan of Star Wars. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's yeah, I gotta agree with that. And what is it now? Let me ask this: what is it? Is it the lightsaber itself, or is it that it's Star Wars, or what is it that's attracted you in that particular vein? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you gotta think that I play a sniper class as like my main class. I don't even carry a lightsaber, so it's really it's really part of like just kind of being in that environment, you know, and knowing that exists and knowing that's part of it, and it's just it's, you know, extending the legend. And I think too, the other thing that it brings along with it, and this may be a whole nother, like my number 2 on the list too, is that basically it kind of lends itself to having a little bit more age in your competitors and the people that are in the game as well, because you know, I feel like an old fart sometimes, and and you know, probably for good reason. But you know, when I played WoW, I was playing with a lot of really young kids, and I felt like ancient. And that was back when I was like 30, you know. And so now it feels like there's a lot of people that are just like me playing this game because we all love Star Wars. We all grew up with Star Wars. It's all part of it. We're just kind of extending the legend a little bit further and part of it. So I think it's all just being immersed in that world, and it's one of my favorite things.
What about you, Andrew? Is it the lightsaber? Is it Star Wars lore? What is it that brought you that side of it into Tor?
I think it definitely started with, you know, the lightsabers and the fact that it was Star Wars. That's what drew me in. This was the first MMO that I've played for any real stretch of time, so it was definitely the fact that it was Star Wars that drew me in. But I think that the things that make it an MMO are the things why I still play it, because I've played lots of Star Wars games, but this is now by far the one that I've played the longest consistently, and definitely the only one that I've started writing a blog about. So I think that I didn't go into it for the MMO aspects of it, but that's what has kept me here for as long as I've been playing the game.
Yeah. What about you, Heather? Where does the lightsaber fit as far as why you're still playing Tor? Is it the lightsaber itself, or are you into the Star Wars lore, or what is it?
Well, I don't know. I play with the biggest lightsaber possible, so.
She's the size girl.
But actually, when I started playing, I wasn't the one that bought the game. It just was kind of presented to me like, oh, well, I'm playing this. Why don't you just try it out? And I tried it out, and then, oh, look what happened, addict. This is like really blasphemous, but I don't know what. Never mind.
You can't stop there.
I don't think I've watched episode 6. Or no. Episode 3. I don't think I've watched episode 3.
Well, that's all right. Yeah, actually, that's fine. Any of the you're fine with the prequels.
I feel like this fake Star Wars fan, but I really like the game. I like playing with the lightsaber. I like the cool buzzing noises. I like that I have the big double lightsaber, and I like it. I like the movies. I just don't know if I watched number 3. I don't think I have, because I would remember. But I know what happens in number 3 because it's been spoiled for me already. But yeah.
Well, actually, that kind of this kind of leads into the another question that I have, and we all do it because I have the hyperspace beacon, pretty little Sith. We have SWTOR economics. We have a podcast. Why? Okay, so what about the game inspired you to not just play the game? Because there are people that just play the game. That's all they do. They don't visit the forums. But they're truly into the game. But that's all they do. What inspired you guys? And I'll start with Andrew here. What inspired you to suddenly say, "Hey, you know what? I need to write a blog about this game too." What was it that inspired you to do that?
That's a great question. I don't exactly know what motivated me to do it. I had been doing all of these things, and either just saving them on my computer and not showing anyone, or just showing them to a few friends in my guild or something. And so I had been creating all of these things all along, and just didn't really have an outlet for it. And so I think I finally just hit a critical mass where I needed some way to start talking about it and sharing it and getting feedback on it and things like that. And so I think it was that community that is out there of Star Wars fan sites and people who just follow all of the podcasts and fan sites and everything so fervently, that it was really easy for me to jump in. I didn't have to manufacture some sort of new community. I just got to jump right into an already vibrant community. And so I think that's what it was for me. It was just being able to walk right into a room full of people who didn't actually feel like strangers, and who were interested in whatever I was bringing to the table.
A good call on the community there. I do think that the podcast blogging community that Tor has is definitely different, and it's very strong and very inviting. Weirdly inviting, really. We even though many of us are kind of competing blogs, if you will, but it doesn't
compete.
Well, exactly. But it never feels like we're competing with each other. So
whatever, dude. My podcast is better than everybody else. Whatever. Nuke the world. No, yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time, I'm just like, hey, you want to write about this? Because I don't really feel like it.
That's right.
Like someone else will do it. I don't have to.
That's right. Go ahead.
Except the community cantina. I was like, oh, Larry could do it, and then people are just like, what happened with your article?
Let the guy over at Massively handle everything. Yeah, I see how it is.
Yeah.
Chuck, what inspired you to do or at least join up with Bad Feeling Podcast? that
Oh God, I can't even remember. I mean, it's been a year now. I forgot it all, man. How it all started. No, Brian and I work together, and
Yeah.
we got stuck in a game. You know a game called Ebony?
I've heard of that game.
Terrible. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
We don't want to talk about that game. We're cool. We're
No,
cool.
I'm just saying. It's just we got stuck in that game for a long time, and we're just looking for something new. And then once we started this, it was like, okay, cool. And then we started doing exactly what what Andrew's talking about as far as checking out the podcast, listening to everybody talk about it, checking out the YouTube videos and Twitch streams so that we could see how this play goes and how that goes. And it just got to the point where, when we heard all these other podcasts and how top end it was like, wow, that's way above what we can do. Like, we're not even there. And we were like, well, what about all these other a-holes that are on the bottom end, and that, like us? And that's kind of how we got to talking about what we were going to do with the podcast and how we were going to do it. But it just was kind of organic and spun out of the community the same way. It just gave us an opportunity. And then when we started, everybody's like so awesome. Because I do another podcast as well about metal, and let's just say that community is not as friendly. It's a lot more competitive. I mean, just straight up, like, so much more competitive. And coming from radio, in a radio background, it's just so competitive. You just don't do these things, and being friendly with everybody else is so much more fun. And like kind of awesome, and the cooperativeness of the community is like, it's been great, especially a year in now. It's just been a really good thing for our podcast and everything else.
Yeah, you know what you guys kind of remind me of, and I'm glad somebody came in to kind of fill this niche. There was when Tor first launched, there was a podcast called Sonny's Diner. He still does some stuff, but pink lightsaber, awesome. But you guys kind of filled that niche of he called himself a casual gamer, although he was a little more hardcore than I think he was wanting to admit. But you guys kind of filled that void, and I really liked it. Really kind of laid back, kind of feel like you're kind of in a diner just chatting with some dudes, and it was So that's what I really like about Bad Feeling Podcast, and I'm glad you're there doing it. Heather.
And I mean, unfortunately, like, Brian is getting good now, so
Well, shoot, you're gonna have to kick him. You're gonna have to kick him off the show. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to let him go here at some point because he's just getting too good, and yeah, I'm not keeping up.
Heather, what? So, Pretty Little Sith and Curly Run Radio. I know you stepped in for Curly Run Radio, but you also do your own blog. So, what inspired you to do that?
Well, basically, I thought my writing skills were going away because I don't have to use writing ever at work, and I wasn't in school. I wasn't writing papers, but I knew I was good, and I wanted to write about something. So I thought, well, best advice for writers: write what you know. What I knew was that I really liked playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I started writing all of my thoughts, and people really liked it. and so I became a part of the community, and I saw that Curly and Radio was needing writers. So I said, hey, I can write for you. And guess what happened? I still don't have like a weekly column on Curly and Radio, but I am on their podcast. So that's just how it happened. I just liked writing about the game, and people liked it, and that's all.
It's funny how, I mean, because I actually ran a forum before I got involved in anything with Tor, and it was a Star Wars roleplay forum, and that's where I started. So I was always about, and this is kind of way I'm extending this into the way I'm doing this podcast, and a lot of things that you'll notice, the things I do, and why I personally want to do the things that I do is I like community. I like building communities. I like exposing people that are doing amazing things in communities, and say, hey, look at this guy. He's doing this thing over here, or look at this girl. She's doing this really cool thing. And and that's kind of, you know, and I've always been a Star Wars fan, and so whenever TOR came out, that's kind of what I wanted to do. And that's what I did with Hyperspace Beacon as well. One of the first Hyperspace Beacons that I did for Massively was like, hey, check these guys out, and that's kind of why I got into it, because I like to point out whenever people are doing really cool things. And here these three guys are. There's other guys that I bring on to the podcast, or new media broadcast, whatever you want to call this thing, that do some really cool things. So let's Andrew, let's go on to your like number one thing why you like TOR and why you still play it.
I think actually the chat room was just bringing up the rail space missions, and I replied and said that I still play the rail space missions somewhat regularly, and I think that's part of what I like so much about the game, is that even if there's one part of the game that either I just kind of get tired of because I've spent too much time on it, like the GTN, maybe a lot, and or you know, if maybe I'll dabble in PvP a little bit, and then I'll get destroyed so many times in a row that I leave for a month to go console myself. But there's always some other part of the game that I can go focus on for, you know, 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and kind of get a break from something that I've maybe spent too much time on. And it prevents that. With other games, I'd always have to stop playing the game because there was only one thing to do. So I would stop playing a game and go play a completely different game for a while. But I feel like the nice thing about SWTOR is that within the game I have at least a half dozen different options of things that I can focus on at any given time, and so I can kind of bounce around, and it appeals to my inability to focus on the same thing for more than a month or two at a time.
I get it. I kind of do.
Does that mean your blog's gonna go away because it's been a month?
No. That is definitely not going away at this point. I've hit the critical mass where I've spent way too much time on that to let that fall by the wayside now. So it will definitely be sticking around.
But no, I feel that too. I mean, I'm sure that Chuck and Heather can attest to this as well. That it's one of those things that, yeah, you get into it maybe for this reason over here. Like, for instance, I mean, I got into Star Wars: The Old Republic because of roleplay. A lot of my roleplay community went over to the Old Republic, but now, I mean, even though I still roleplay, much of my time is spent preparing for raids and doing raiding stuff, which I hadn't really done, at least not done to the level that I'm doing it now in TOR, and I think that speaks to. You know, it speaks to the quality of the game, is that you can jump from one thing to the other, and it does, and you'll enjoy this just as much as you enjoyed this other thing over here. What about you guys? What actually, Chuck? Why did you initially get into the game? What was the thing that you wanted to do whenever you got into it? Like, that was the most appealing to you?
I had no idea like what I was getting into, you know, because I had played a little bit of WoW, I played a little bit of Galaxies, you know, and that stuff, but I was the same way with you know, just single player games, you know, and I got on and I'm like, I'm going to play a single player game. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try it out and see what it was. You know, none of that stuff. PvP, foreign to me, completely foreign to me. And you know, if you've listened to Bad Feeling podcast, I've probably done more changing over the last year as far as what I like to do in game than any, like, because I when GSF was announced, I'm like, no, whatever, GSF is terrible. No, nobody's gonna play. And now I'm addicted. I mean, like, I'm changing the time that I'm changing the time of day that I play, because I figured out that when there are actual players on to queue GSF, and the same thing with you know, the doggone strongholds. Okay, so same, you know, I'm like, oh, whatever, strongholds, there's the dump there, who's going to decorate all the, and now I'm the ship decorator. So,
mine's still not decorated, Chuck.
Oh, we just opened a new thing, and I was like, oh my god, we opened a new thing?
I am so glad I caught that on camera, because that was the most amazing thing.
It's just, and that's the thing that's kind of got me in and kept me going. It's like I was just so surprised because as soon as I logged in, I was like, "There's no way that this keeps going." What do you mean? There, you go over this hill and there's more. Okay, and then you go up this hill and there's more, and there's more, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going, and it was like it just sucked me in, and now everything that comes up, it's just even more. So, yeah, now I'm just addicted. It's kind of dumb, but
That's
awesome.
That's how my experience with Strongholds was too. That at first I had zero interest in them. When I really started playing the game, I was away from the game when they first came out. When I came back, I was like, I don't get this. I don't think I'll ever do it. And then someone in my guild explained it to me for like 10 minutes one morning. I was like, so what's the point? Why would I have one? And they described all the things that they had and invited me to come see theirs. And then by like 3 o'clock that afternoon, I probably spent like $200 and had bought a ton of cartel packs and unlocked like all the rooms in my Narshada stronghold and never looked back.
What about you, Heather? What did you initially get into Tor? What was the draw?
Well, I told you earlier in the show that it was just kind of presented to me by someone, and then I started playing.
Were you looking
and
for?
I really liked it.
Were you looking for PvE, PvP? Was it, or was it? What was it specifically?
I wasn't so much interested in PvP at all. I really liked sitting there, playing by myself, playing the stories, and then I finally got, I finally joined up a guild when I was level 50, and I still didn't know what I was doing. I was some horrible lightning heal spec on my Sork. And I just started playing with people. And I made a jug. I was a little bit better playing a jug than I was playing a Sork. And then I made an assassin, and I was way better playing an assassin than a jug. And so I just, from then on, it's just been a very social game, and that makes it a lot funner to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the chat room regarding strongholds, $200. Well, which I haven't dropped $200. I'll admit that, but I have on my strongholds probably dropped about 10 million or more, 15 million, something around that. I mean, on decorating my strongholds. I mean, that's how ridiculous.
I live in the guild ship.
Yeah.
We have I think we have like beds in some room somewhere. So I just live
I've
there.
decorated the guild ship. I've decorated the guild stronghold. I've decorated 2 of my strongholds now, and it's the reason that I can't save any money.
Yeah.
I have no credits on any tune in my game because I keep buying crap.
That's right. That's
to
right.
hang on the walls.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly the way I am too. I don't know. It's so weird. I have.
I'm disappointed in myself.
I think I have 3 million on my characters now, and the only reason I have 3 million and not like 20 million is because I'm spending money on the strongholds. Like as soon as I get an extra million or whatever, I'm like, oh, I could buy this and this and this for my stronghold. I have 2 strongholds myself. I have the Tatooine stronghold, which is like the most expensive one, completely decorated. It's 100%. And then I also have the Droman Koss one at 100%. And I also decorated the guild ship as well. So the 2 manliest men here are the decorators.
I mean, every time I get a spare set of cartel coins, I'm like, this card table would look great in the Great Cantina. I think I need to pull this thing. This would totally pull the room together. It's gonna be amazing.
That's right.
And yeah, I even have I have a little Zen garden room in our guild stronghold. I've got it's just wow. It makes me I hate saying it out loud.
But
I really do.
It's great though.
But it's just an example of kind of what I was saying is that there are so many different facets. You got the spaceship on rails game.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool when I first played that, and I was like, it can't get any better than this as far as space missions or whatever. And then GSF comes along and kind of it keeps growing and keeps going, and there's so many different facets.
I think to go along with what Chuck is saying about how there's so much stuff in the game, I think the people that are probably the most unhappy or unhappiest, whichever one's a word, the people that I think are most unhappy are the ones that don't try everything.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I think that it if you just do one thing,
Like you have two characters, and you're like, oh, I'm bored. I'm bored with the game. I play two characters and I just do PvP, like
Yeah.
Loki PvP or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, that's all you do? Like, have you tried endgame? Have you tried all 8 classes? I mean, maybe there's a class that you really, really like playing, no matter what you're doing, that you just like. I mean, you haven't tried it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I scoffed at the PVE content for the longest time because I'm like, man, I'm a PvP or whatever. And once I grouped up with like a bunch of dudes with the same goal in mind, I was like, okay, this is actually kind of fun, and I was surprised. It surprised me, And I think if people that do get bored, you just gotta try. You gotta, like you said, try everything.
I mean, that's like real life. I mean, if you get bored, what's something?
50 Shades of Grey, man. I mean, you gotta try a little bit of everything. Never know what.
I'm going to make a sports analogy in this. I think that's definitely true, though, Heather. I think it seems like a lot of there's always the frustration with the frustration that comes out in a lot of times in podcasts or in blog posts or things like that. But I think a lot of times it comes from the people who are the elite players in whatever that area is that they are most focused on, whether it's PvP or PvE or something else. I don't know what else. GSF. I always forget about that. So PvP could be completely broken, and I wouldn't complain about it for 10 seconds because I just wouldn't notice, because the little time that I spend playing PvP, the problem is my skill level, not imbalance. And so I think that only the top players in each part of the game are going to notice some of the things that are often the problem. Because for the average player, they're just not playing it at a high enough level to notice the class imbalances at the level that a really good PvP player will notice them.
Well, one of the things.
Another thing.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We also had another thing.
Yeah.
Well, another thing too. I mean, so you do like every single part of the game, but your guild is just, there's nothing there. Maybe you need to change that up too. Like when I joined Despair, because I know there's like 50 of them in our chat room, but not 50, but a lot.
50 Shades of Despair.
Oh my god. When I first joined, I was in a dying guild. I was just like, oh well, I'd rather just go play Skyrim by myself or something instead of being in this guild where I can't do operations. No one will group with me for PvP. I have to queue. I'm a DPS, and it takes forever. And then one day, a Despair just like, hey, want to do a world boss in Imperial Fleet chat? And I was like, okay. And they were so cool. It was just, like 20 people in their guild just doing a world boss because they wanted to. And it really matters who you play with also. So I think that's also important.
Yeah, I do think it is really, really important. And this can probably be said over any MMO that you play at all, not just Tor, but especially in Tor, is find a group of people, even if it's not a guild, although I think guilds are probably the best way to do it. Find a group of people that you can play with regularly that are constantly doing things, because because those are the people that introduce you to the stuff that you haven't tried before. I think it's your guild that does that, because I wouldn't, if I was not in the guild that I am in now, I would not be raiding. I would not have been really introduced to raiding. It's that whole thing that, yeah, that's key. Find a good group of people. I don't know where we left off. Let's go back to Heather. And what's another thing that that keeps you in Tor? What is another favorite thing of yours? Not lightsabers. We already said that.
I really like the stories, even if it wasn't Star Wars stories. Like, I still enjoy playing an Imperial agent, and that story could be in any game. I think BioWare did a really good job writing these initial class stories, and that's something I still haven't gone through all 8 class stories, which that's also kind of blasphemy. Like, oh my god, I'm this big SWTOR player, but no, I really only play Imperial. So there's still a couple Republic classes that I just haven't done. But one day I will, and I will be very happy to play them, and it'll be just as fun, probably, as as the first time I played a Sith Inquisitor.
So far, which one is your favorite? I just is it still
My favorite story?
Yeah.
It would probably the Imperial Agent story was really good, but I don't think I took the best advantage of it because I went neutral. So I don't think I got like the story was really really good. I like the Imperial Agent. I also just like the Sith Inquisitor one because it was my first one.
What about let's ask you. I'll ask each one of you guys. Which one, Andrew? Which is your favorite story that you've played through?
I think mine's probably it's one of the Jedi stories. I like both of them. I think I probably enjoyed the Counselor story was the first one that I did when I did my Sage Healer as my original main, and I think that one's still probably my favorite, but it might just be because I'm biased because it was the first one that I went through.
I would have to completely disagree with you on that one, but Chuck, which one was your favorite one?
Well, my Sentinel was the first one that I actually completed through 55, like when I started. I haven't gone back to him because I can't stand that guy. Because I played him all light side, and he was, total goody two-shoes, and he's just the nicest guy. He always helps people, doesn't ever kill anybody, shakes people's hands and says thank you, and I can't stand that dude. But the Imperial Agent story, Dark Side, awesome. I like that story quite a bit all along, and its pair story with the pub side is actually pretty good as well. But I like Heather haven't played through all the classes yet either. So especially to endgame content, I haven't even gotten all of my tunes all the way up to 60 yet. So it's something that I'm still working on. I just get so focused on the class that I'm playing right now, and I can't get away from it. So, story content to me is important and interesting, but I forget about it because I'm so busy doing PvE or PvP, and I just forget. And then you go and you play through a class story, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right.
I haven't seen the Shadow of Revan from the pub side yet.
Oh.
So so I'm like, damn, I need to go. I was like, I need to go check that out. I haven't even done it yet. So, but I forget about it. And but it is like what got me going in the beginning was that Sentinel story, and made me kind of jump in both feet.
I had a friend that started playing the game just this past week, and he wasn't a big MMO player, and that was the thing that got him to stick. He started as a free-to-play, and then within 24 hours signed up for a subscription because he started playing it, and he was like, "Wait, this is everything I love about every BioWare game I've ever played, because it's their storytelling and all of the things that have made BioWare's name in the industry." And so that's what made him stick around. That he said, worst case scenario, he knows that it's a really good BioWare story RPG that he can do at least 8 different variations of before he runs out of stuff to do.
Right.
So,
and then he can do the other class over again.
Yeah. One of the things that
you kind of forget what happens.
Yeah. One of the things that I have to go with the Agent story probably being the best overall story, because one of the reasons that I liked BioWare stories in the first place, like I played Mass Effect 6 or 7 times through, 1 and 2 at least, both of them 6 or 7 times through, and it was so different playing each one of them, that like personality wise and that kind of thing. And that's kind of what, as far as the Imperial Agent is concerned, that had the most variety of character development that I found. Like, for instance, I mean, because and I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil some things here, but when you go dark side, the stuff that happens with Jadis is amazing. And
Right.
I know, right? But then
Who?
with Jadis, with Darth Jadis, when the counselor Darth, yeah, okay, Yeah, you should. The audience didn't see Heather's face on that, but yeah, no, it's really cool. And then also, my mic didn't. Anyway, it sounded funny. Anyway, the other. Then if you go light side, you have it's almost a completely different story. And then you also have one in the middle too that is quite a bit different as well. And so I'm so that was my favorite. But that being said, though, all but like the counselor story were amazing. I mean, the trooper story for me, there was actually a point in the trooper story where I was like, I don't know what choice to make here. It was so a little bit of a spoiler. There's a point where you're freeing people from a prison, and you either save this one person that you've been working with for a while, or you save all of the like the senators or whatever they were, and they're like,
I let that person die.
Oh,
Oh my god, is that a spoiler? I didn't think it was.
No, I played totally different. I forget how I played my trooper, but I do know that I let those senator people die because really, I mean, they're politicians. We can those get cranked out all the time. Anyway, so I gotta say that that story is still a huge draw, and even this, even with Shadow of Revan, even if you have a level 55, let's say, and you want it, and you're just doing the end game content. From 55 to 60, Shadow of Revan there are some great storylines even in Shadow of Revan, and it doesn't take very long to get through them, but they're still really, really enjoyable. So, yeah. Chuck, number 2. What's the second thing on your list? For
Well, what's funny, I was thinking about this mainly because my co-host Brian, for I can't remember how many months when we first started playing the game, he told me that he was playing with the sound off, that he was just listening to music or something else with
He
no
doesn't
sound.
listen to the Star Wars music?
He was not listening to any of the sound. I was like, well, so when you got on this plane, I was like, did you hear like how the music changed and how awesome this was when you go to like Voss, I think it was. I was like, the music when you get on Voss is like awesome, and it kind of changes with the planet and all that. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, dude, you totally missing like such an important layer of the game. I was like, the sound design of the game is so amazing, because I'm an audio nerd, working in radio, podcasting, whatever. I pay attention to all that stuff. So I had him flip it on, put on some headphones, and check it out. And he was like, "Oh my god, this is a completely different game."
It is.
Brian suddenly discovered like all this cool sound stuff that was going on. Not just the fighting sounds, and lightsabers, and all that stuff, but like the music and everything else that's going on in it, and so many cool aspects that are in the sound design. And that was one of the things that was just totally cool to me, because you get that real Star Wars soundtrack to go along with it as well. And the voice actors that are in it, and everybody that participates in the game, it's just so deep in so many different layers. And then to think that it's on so many different levels with so many different stories, and how far that goes, like I was just completely impressed with that side of the game. And I don't know that everybody realizes how important that is to your entire experience, but it's such a cool aspect of the game.
Yeah, I really like the music too, but sometimes I feel like I'm dorky listening to the music all the time, even though I've been playing.
You are
the game.
not dorky.
No, I've been playing the game for a long time. I watch these streamers and they all play other music over, and I'm like, well, I listen to the game music. Is it weird?
The
like
only
I
time
don't.
Yeah, like the only time I ever really listen to other music is when we're doing ops. So then I'll throw on some heavy metal or something so I can get all hyped up and stuff. But most of the time I want to hear, that because it really is. You get on a different planet and it sets the mood.
Yeah.
Like the first time you jumped on Manon and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah, and it's really funny how much it does set the moods. It's not just and everything is done to a very I guess very minute level, like on minutia. I mean, especially in the early. I mean, all the little like. If you, I don't know if you've done this, Chuck, but I did this because I was doing like Mishimina and things like that. I was trying to do that initially with the game. Is I turned off all the sounds except for the voice, just so I could catch some. Like I wanted to get what I wanted to do is I wanted to catch like a Twi'lek doing speaking Huttese or something like that is what I wanted to catch, and they actually this was crazy to me that they actually went this far with the sound design. Is that voice sounds like it's in that place, whatever that place happens to be. Like if it was in the starport, it kind of echoed off the walls, or if it was in the jungle, it totally like the sound dissipated. So there was a whole. It's just the level of sound design in this game is really beyond. I mean, most of us are paying attention to the mechanics and things along that line, but if you stop and listen to the level of sound design, you'll just see how much care was actually put into this game itself.
Nerds.
I know, totally nerds.
I wear headphones when I play now.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about, where they're talking, it sounds like they're in the room, and then there's the three-dimensional aspect of it. Oh, like that's one of my favorite things, and that actually, when I used to play Doom, first-person shooters, used to scare the living crud out of myself. A monster that would be growling in the background, like you'd hear it behind you, and like that's one of my favorite things about the sound design in this game is that it really is. It's three-dimensional and it's just completely immersive, and it makes the game. It is of Star Wars quality, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely didn't appreciate it going into it. I remember reading an article before launch about how many hours of voice acting had gone into TOR, and thinking like, oh man, that seems like a lot of time spent and money spent on voice acting. And at the time, I was just some dumb college kid, and I was like, my iPhone can talk to me now. Why don't they just have my iPhone voice it? And so that's where my starting point was. So I certainly wasn't coming from Chuck's perspective of appreciating it, but over time. Mostly because I accidentally turned the background sound on, so that if it was in the background, it kept playing at some point, and I got used to hearing it in the background to the point that if like I timed out and I went back to the load screen, I would be like, wait, where'd my background noise go? And I'd like go get the game rolling again just to have the background noise because I liked it so much. And so over time, it grew on me. And it was interesting hearing you guys talk about it because it was you articulated it so well, whereas I just kind of happened upon it because of preference. But it really is something that's really impressive about the game, even as someone who doesn't understand it to the level that you guys clearly do. But I think it's still really cool to see something done so well that even if I don't understand it, it's cool.
I read an article somewhere that video game music is designed to help you concentrate. I don't know if like this. I mean, it's just Star Wars music, so I don't know if it's actually like,
Well, it actually does it. If it's done well, video game music is really in general designed to help you focus on whatever that particular task happens to be, and it'll drive you in a certain direction or not. Whatever. I think that TOR goes to show that sound design is important, and even like Chuck was saying with the three-dimensional sounds and things along that line. Like I would use and people are going to get on to me because I'm mentioning PvP here, but in PvP, I use it all the time to know where people are spatially. Certain classes will have certain sounds that they make at certain times, and I'll know, oh crap, I gotta get out of the way. Even if I don't see that particular class, that person on my screen, I know that he's right over there because I can hear him. And so yeah, it's really, really important.
Well, and nothing will take you out of the game more so than when you hear something kind of messed up.
Yeah.
So like if you hear something kind of screwy, you're like, well, wait a minute. What was that? Like the first time I heard that we made fun of it on the podcast, the the guy from Rishi. You know, the Birdman from Rishi. That guy.
Yeah, I thought that was entertaining.
Like,
That
it was
cute. That was like
entertaining,
Jar Jar.
but it totally like flipped me out. Like, it took me out of the game for a second. I'm like, what in the world is that guy? You know, and it was strange. It seemed odd, and that's a couple of those things you just take some minutes.
Okay, so actually, I gotta admit something very, very similar to this, and I haven't. You would have noticed if I'd been streaming my raids, which I really, really should now. One of the guys in the Temple of Sacrifice, the Mandalorian, when you fight Curse and you fight the Mandalorian and you fight the agent all at one time, the Mandalorian is Mermaid Man from SpongeBob.
Oh my god! Oh my god! You're right. Oh my god!
And oh my gosh, he totally takes me out of the game every single time I hear that. So
wow, that's amazing. Like, so because the first time I realized that what is it? Is it D4? Doggone it! What's his name from Shadow of Revan? The
droid, yeah, D4, yeah.
It's Dr. Venture.
Oh, okay.
You know, and and that voice actor is like all over the game. Like almost like half the droids' voices are his voice, and it's like it's Dr. Venture from the Venture Brothers. So every time I hear it, it's like I can't find when I figured it out what it was like amazing. Now that's gonna haunt me because I'm gonna think about Mermaid.
Every single time I hear him.
Well, okay. So if you're from Texas or the South, you'll know what I'm talking about with this. There's a restaurant called Whataburger, right?
Whataburger, yeah.
Whataburger is a pretty damn good burger. But they had this guy for years that did these commercials, and he had this really kind of crazy Texas voice, right? And there's one sergeant on one planet. He has like 3 lines, and it's the Whataburger guy. Oh. It's the weirdest thing. Like I don't know how it just was. It's a side quest and it's something weird. But if you know what I'm talking about with the Whataburger guy, if you're in the South, he's in the game somewhere, and it's just this one guy who's got a hankering to give you a mission. It freaked me out. I was like, wow, that's so Texas. I was like, and it's almost like a little nugget, you know, for the people that know, you know, it's really weird.
All right, last one. We'll go to Andrew one more time. Give me another reason why are you still playing Tor, and what still attracts you to the game?
Wow, I need to get my head back on straight after that experience.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think honestly for me, it's we've kind of touched on it in a few different ways in terms of community and things like that. But a big part of it for me, for a long time, has been all of the different podcasts that exist out there. And you know, I know just from my little brief experience of trying to create content for the game, I've learned a lot about how difficult that is and how much of a time commitment it is. And so my respect level has only increased for everyone who puts on shows like this, or you know, Bad Feeling Podcasts for Chuck and Corellian Run with Heather. That all of those things are so great, and they really make it a more full and interesting game, because there's so many times, whether I'm at work or doing errands or something, where I can't be playing the game, but if I have a bunch of podcasts loaded up on my phone and I can, you know, be engaged in what's going on and maybe pick up an interesting tip that I didn't know about, it keeps me motivated to then get back in the game whenever I have a little free time to go look into it. And so I think that's an underrated part of the overall game, and one of the reasons that I'm really hopeful and optimistic about you know, the community team partnering up more with content providers like podcasts over time, because I think that it's something that's really great about the game, and I really hope that they continue to foster it, because I think that will keep people interested if they can stay engaged in the game when they're not playing.
I absolutely agree. That's it is one of the coolest things.
Except when people shave their beards. Brian should be immediate.
Oh yeah, I know, right? What is up with that?
That was the Rishi voice of the Bad Feeling Podcast. He broke character and it ruined it.
Totally.
All right, well, amazing show. 200 episodes of The Republic, and
Wow.
I know it's good. I can't believe it's been 200 episodes, but and I've been in. You believe it or not, I haven't been in all of them. I missed like the first 3, but other than that, I've been in The Republic. So anyway, I want to thank Heather, who you can catch. Oh my gosh, where is my sound gone? I have no sound. There we go. All right, you can catch Heather on Twitter at Heather_PLS. You can also catch her on Carillion Run Radio at CarillianRun.com, and also go to PrettyLittleSith.com to catch her blog.
We have a special show.
Yeah.
We have a special show on Sunday where we have our live show that we record every other week, but we have some special guests. We have Gokin, PT, and Gildarian. We're doing a PvP show, and I think it's going to be very, very, very good. Gokin, he streams a lot on Twitch, and Gildarian, he's so happy to PvP, and he means a gunslinger. So I think they have a lot of interesting things to say that day.
Yeah, that's going to be, what's the time again?
It should be 2:00 Pacific.
On which
PM.
Which day?
On Sunday.
On Sunday.
Sunday, March 1st.
Sunday, March 1st, 2 p.m. Definitely catch that on Carillion. Is it on? You're on your Twitch channel, right? You want to go to, what is your Twitch channel, or do you have it on Carillion?
Carillion Run Radio. Twitch.tv/Carillion Run Radio.
There you go. Go to Carillion Run Radio, or excuse me, Twitch.tv/Carillion Run Radio at 2 on Sunday, PST, and check that out. Definitely. We need more positive PvP guys. So. Excellent. And Chuck, you can catch Chuck on the Bad Feeling Podcast at badfeeling.com. You can also go, or badfeelingpodcast.com. Sorry. You can also catch him on Twitter, Bearded Ape. And what's going on this week at Bad Feeling?
We have no idea.
Yeah, no, all right.
We get no idea what we're talking about. So that's we got a bad feeling about this podcast.
All right. Well, you can definitely catch him on badfeelingpodcast.com and go to at SWTOR Economics or SWTOReconomics.com. Did I get that right? I don't have it written down in front of me. Right? Okay. SWTOReconomics.com.
Yep, that's right.
For Andrew's blog. Cool thing. Give me one cool thing that your tip for the week. Got one?
My tip for the week. Oh man. The MK10 components and the MK10 kits have been really interesting lately, so keep an eye on those on your servers.
There you go.
What do you mean interesting?
You gotta find out. Read his blog.
It's the prices are moving a lot on the GTN, up and down by 10 or 20,000 credits in some cases in just a day or two. So a lot of price movement.
There you go. And you can catch me every week, although I've been off the last couple of weeks. I apologize for that, being sick and technical issues. But you can catch me every week on Thursdays at 6:30 PST on the Republic here on Game Breaker. And you can also catch my blog at hyperspacebeacon.com. You can also catch me over at Massively OP. I write the massivelyop.com. I write Hyperspace Beacon over there. And then I'm also here on GameBreaker.tv every single day reporting the news. Catch me on Twitter at Shadow. Also catch GameBreaker at GameBreaker TV. And I think I hit everybody's plugs and everything I needed there. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week.